Well, hello, and we're back. Now, I don't know if this is any brighter, but we're having a little complication here. As I told you, this is Language Buddy School, and I want you to understand that right now we are just trying to lay a foundation for those particular students or Conrad potential candidates who are interested in coding. And what we have been doing was a foundation to talk about our language of medical terminology. So let's just slide back a minute and define what coding is. I talked quite a bit to the audience about getting young women involved in coding, because I am trying to prepare people to have a trade and a skill and to work from their homes as cottage home business remotely. Now, a number of you need to at least have 5 years of experience in order to be remote workers. And most companies won't even hire you without a minimum of 5 years of experience. Now, the AAPC allows you to take online courses as if you were getting work experience. They will give you up to 2 years of work experience for taking online courses in the area of medical terminology, as well as looking at the ICD-10-CM. Now, let's slow it down a little bit and ask the question, just what is coding, Omi? Now, I've mentioned to you coding for the engineers. That is a different project. That is coding with taking numbers and creating instructions. The code has the instruction in it. It tells the item what to do. The same thing happens with medical coding. When you place a number or a digit in a particular position, it tells the number how to pay the doctor, what amount of money that needs to be dished out to the doctor. How will the doctor get paid for that procedure? Now, you have procedure codes and you have diagnosis. When the patient comes in, they are coming in with a symptom. The doctor takes the symptoms and try to line up the specific diagnosis. He comes as close as he can to the diagnosis based on what the patient tells him that their illnesses are. He writes a prescription up for a procedure to be carried out on that patient. Each one of those procedures must have a procedure code that tells the particular medical records person what the patient is being treated for and what procedure was done on him. First of all, what was the diagnosis? Then what was the procedure performed on the patient? Each one of those are two separate codes, and they must require a code so the doctor can be paid for his diagnosis as well as his procedure. We don't want to delay in guessing what the code is. So the government has instructed us through a set of documents that I talked to you about. And I asked you to go and download these documents. I hope you downloaded them because they can be yours free of charge. And this could be your ticket to understanding what the guidelines are for the government. And we must follow and be in compliance with the government and follow these procedures to the T. Because if you don't, you will fall off the wagon and start coding anything you think you want to, and the doctor won't get paid. And then those ugly flags will come up, and somebody will have to be audited and assessed for inappropriate and aggressively coding outside of the realms of the guideline. So we always read the guideline. So coding is putting a number to a particular diagnosis and to a particular procedure. It is a mechanism for which we create a code that medical records people only understand and know. Most doctors only know you put a code there. They don't know that your book has to be dissected and tabulated off into certain sections in order for you to know which section to go to code. You also have specific codes where you might have a specialty doctor, such as you may have a long-term facility that you're coding for. Those are specialty codes. And the OASIS have come up with their own special training to train coders for specific procedures that they're going to write down based on the hospice, at-home services, or the long-term services in a nursing home. It's very important that you understand that you can specialize. You can specialize in coding for dentists. You can be a dental specialist and coding for the procedures on surgery. It could be structural surgery that the doctor's doing with the dentist's office, where he may be extracting the tooth. There are certain codes for that surgeon that is extracting teeth, and there are certain codes for the dental, where the dental hygienist may perform a procedure and the dentist does. You can specialize in dentistry. There are many areas you can specialize in. You can also specialize in tumor registry. And tumor registry is for those patients who have cancer. They keep track of those cancer victims, whether or not they're in recession, whether or not they are coming out of the stage of cancer, or whether or not they perish. They keep the statistics on those through tumor registry. You can be a tumor registry specialist in coding. Some of you might want to go on to be an inpatient coding. That would mean that you'd have to have a lot of information on anatomy and physiology, because you're coding just about everything in-house in the hospital. That's inpatient. Now, if you're outpatient, you're going to be specific to what you're coding for. You would not have to have as much medical, you would not have to have the anatomy and physiology. It's not a requirement. But most instructors are saying, in order to speed up the process so that you can sit for your exam and become a CPT, you are going to take your medical terminology and then take your ICD-10-CM and get enough review training in boot camp so you can then go in and challenge the CPC examination. There are no criteria for taking the CPC. You can come off the street and study and review for the CPC and have never had any experience and could possibly go in there and challenge the exam. However, it's time sensitive. And with over 100 and some odd questions, somewhere around 150, you might run into a problem because of the time restraints. You could be just as intelligent if you want. If you don't know medical terminology, you will not be able to decipher the codes that they're asking you to chart for. Now, this is a procedure that on the floor, medical records people chart on the floor, and sometimes they put codes on the patient's record, and they work on the floor to speed things up. These codes are very vital because once the doctor treats a patient and diagnoses a patient and then prescribes, he wants to be paid, and he wants to be paid quickly. And there once was a time when most of all of the other professionals were being paid, and the doctor was finding that he was being paid less. He didn't like that. So he came up with a set of codes of his own called the CPT. The doctors created the CPT codes so that they could be able to quickly and immediately be paid for their procedures and codes. Now, why would you want to do this kind of work? It is very highly professional, and it is skillful, and literally it is an enjoyable profession to be able to gracefully guide through a set of books to execute this little number by way of looking at the charts, reading the patient's inpatient documentations of what his complaint was, what did he come in for, what was he seen for, and then looking at what procedure the doctor did on him and coding to the highest 7th digit so that those digits are coded to the maximum level so the doctor can get the maximum pay out of his procedure. So what does that mean? What if a doctor wants to charge $50 over here in Harriet and County and over in Lake County? They only want to charge $20. Is that customarily? Is that done consistently? It might be out of order because that doctor may be excessively overcharging. Now, where the actual coders could run into a problem, they are audited and they are timed and they are assessed for their work. So periodically, their supervisors audit their work haphazardly. They randomly audit different candidates' work. And when they randomly audit your work, they look for mistakes and errors that you may have made in undercoding or overcoding, meaning the doctor cannot get paid over the amount than what that reasonable and customary fee is for that community and area. So you have to take logistics of the area. What are most doctors charging for this procedure? Should we stay within the guidelines and charge that same amount? Or if we don't stay within the guidelines, will we have any problems in the future with our overcharging? You don't want to get in a habit of overcharging because you will get called unreasonable and customary in your location, in your logistic area. That's why the doctor doesn't have a lot of time to run into the coding department to see what you're doing. He wants to hire proficient coders that know what they're doing, and he brings auditors in that will periodically audit those coders, and there is an actual quota that your supervisor expects you to finish encoding on a reasonable time. And if you're remotely coding from home, they're going to check on you even more to see if you are on task and you are not causing the company to lose money, because it has to be the time limit that you're taking to complete a code. They know exactly how long it should take you to complete a batch of codes. And if you are not meeting your quota on a daily basis, you can get reprimanded for not matching or meeting that code regulation and stipulation. So why would you want to be a coder then, Omi? What would make you want to be a coder if you're going to constantly be examined? Well, when they say that you are remotely working from your home, you really are not exclusively on your own. You're on your own to a certain extent, as long as you're meeting the guidelines, meeting the quotas, and you are proficient at what you do. Once they find that you can stay on task, on time, and you're not wasting the company money, and you are proficiently meeting your quota, literally, they will check your work and you won't have a problem because you're proficient at what you do. And then it becomes relaxation for you to be able to govern your day and know when you're going to do the height of your work, so that you have completed your quota, and then you can go on free for the rest of that day to do what it is you would like to do after you've met your quota and proficiently turned in your work. Isn't that a great opportunity to be able to govern yourself and not have someone looking over your shoulder, and at the same time be able to have a profession that is very, very functional, with conferences yearly, annually, and there are communities of medical records people that come together that also have a bank with jobs in it. So if you lose a job and you become a member of a community, you can access that job bank to look for employment. So it becomes a source of employment for you when you're coming out of school. It also is a great network for you to network with other peers and comrades who are in the same profession you're in. There are a number of us that are writers and that we write and we submit our articles. That's how I became eligible to get a scholarship. Initially, I was working in respiratory therapy, and I was the top of my class and being a technician, and I got promoted to a therapist. I was just a technician, but I was given the ability to pass meds in the emergency room, to do intubation, and to assist the doctor in arterial blood gases and drawing arterial blood gases and helping to intubate and setting up the life-supporting ventilators in emergency. So I worked as a technician in emergency, but soon later got promoted to do therapeutic work. I was not licensed in respiratory therapy, but we were given a chance to go back to school to get licensing in any area of the medical field. I chose medical records because I wanted less patient contact and I wanted to be able to work in the area of medical to basically be able to use my prior minor in biology. So what is so exciting about the medical field is that you save lives. You're able to help people when they're at their lowest. You're able to expediently do a job that's necessary that will bring you fulfillment and gratitude. So some of the ladies who got to be very good at being a claim processor, they went on to specialize in coding. So my first venture out of the hospital was with Blue Cross Blue Shield, working as a claims manager, hiring my own staff and training them and placing them on the floor and assisting them in meeting the department quota. Yes, I did claims too, because our group had a quota. And whenever there was a slack, I got out there and rolled my sleeves up. In order to stay abreast with claim processing, I completed claims as well, so I could stay on top of my game. Now, what got me interested in coding was that I knew that it was a unique procedure that only gifted people could handle, because there's a lot of recalling and a lot of research. You don't have to keep these numbers in your head. You don't have to memorize them, and you don't need all these cheat sheets with these little sticky notes all over your computer. Long as you have access to your books and your file, you update your books and include notes, anecdotal notes, and addendum, because things do change. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same in the medical field. Just as you improve one condition and get a cure for it, you soon change the procedure codes. Isn't that something grand? So as it begins to change, you will change your methodology. But it's so grand that there's so many professions in the area of coding where you could specialize. You could become a specialist in dealing with patient, long-term patient who are in rehabilitation, who are also into going home to receive their procedures, and they call that hospice. And they can stay home and receive treatments, but they still must have codes on their procedures, even though they're at home. The doctor still has to see them remotely or monitoring that patient, and he still must be paid. So coding continues to go on through OASIS. Now, why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you this to get you excited about coding. Here's something you can walk into a profession by learning virtually 3 classes. That is medical terminology, anatomy and physiology, and ICD-CM, ICD-10-CM. If you learn those 3 classes to the height of a specialist, then you can guarantee yourself a job in the profession. After you get some work experience and get 3 to 5 years of experience behind you, there is no stopping you. But you must convince someone to give you that chance to first be able to get your foot in the door, whether it be through a transcriptionist or a coder. More than likely, it could be a transcriptionist if you're a stenographer, if you like to type on the typewriter and have the skills for data input and have applied the medical terminology properly, then you can listen to the doctor transcribe his orders and you are transcribing his words that he's saying, but you have to be very good at medical terminology. Now, there's a number of people that are getting the skills of medical terminology, and they're going to work as a contractor. They take as much work as they can handle, and they do that work from home. They do it proficiently like a professional, and then turn it in so that nobody's looking over it to the discretion of making them do it all again because of errors. So you must be proficient in the medical field. Why coding? Coding is rising as an in-demand profession so rapidly now. And if you get your 2-year degree in coding, like I went to school for, 3M offered me a scholarship to go back to school after writing a research paper, and I won 2nd place. And in that 2nd place, I took those funds and went back to a junior college, even though I had a bachelor. I knew that this profession was in demand. I went back to school to gain my 2 years of training in the theoretical part of it. Then there was the intern part too. And you just can't stay in school all your life. You got to go back to work sometime. So I went back to work. I did not finish my intern because I needed to work. I had spent 2 years outside of work, and I had to go back and pay for my undergraduate degree because teaching was very hard to get into at one point during the 80s. So after taking all of the anatomy, physiology, chemistry, pathophysiology, medical coding 1, medical coding 2, and after taking all those classes, I had over 30 hours in that profession. I then discovered, because by then I had finished my master's. So we have to strategically fit these things in there. And upon finishing my master's and having these 30-hour credit, I then discovered that I only needed 30 hours in my specialty area and a master's degree to teach as an adjunct at the junior college and become a professor at the junior college. So I became a professor at the junior college for 7 years, working in adjunct positions in the evening while I held a teaching job during the day, because teaching wasn't paying very much then. But the main thing, what I'm trying to tell you, we have to maneuver around these so-called degrees and get into these high-tech IT fields, because those are the ones that are paying the most. So what did I say? How much they pay? Did I tell anyone? If you go out and look on the scales for a coder that has 5 years of experience, and I did say 5 years of experience, they can make anywhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a year just with a 2-year associate degree and 5 years of experience. And they can code from home and remotely code from home with a 5-year experience. Now, those who just get out of school with no work experience, they can't expect to earn those kind of dollars, nor to get in the field unless someone is gracious enough to allow them to come in the profession without work experience. They want you to have work experience. So you say, "Oh me, oh me, oh me. How can I get some work experience?" Then you must take the classes that are equivalent to work experience in the profession as if you had hands-on experience. That's why you got to take these continuing education courses. I'm a professional development and pushing continuing education courses. I believe in continuing education courses. When I was teaching school, every time they offered a continuing ed, I enrolled and urged other people to enroll, because then you were paid for your education. You were paid for going back to school, completing continuing ed. And that is a grand thing, to get paid to go back to school. Teachers, you don't have any excuse. I created a website just for you. You're always complaining about how bored you are in your job, and then you stay there and don't like it, but you won't take continuing ed. And some districts pays for it and pay you for going to school. Then enroll in that class. Take that medical terminology class. Take that allied health class and get a specialty and endorsement in science. You can get in the STEMS program, which will open up opportunities for science, technology, engineering, and math. I was endorsed for science, to teach science. That's why I was hired, because I had a science background. But ignorant administration don't know what they have in their midst, and they were mistaking your skills in science lightly and stick you in social studies class. Just like I got stuck in social studies. I kept raising my hand saying, but I was hired to teach science. I have 30 hours in science. We need you in social studies. Will you please go down to class 102? They want you to start today. They don't give a care. Do you know how hard it is to find science teachers? Very hard, because most people don't want to prep the lab and work in the lab and work with children who don't have any understanding of a lab. Well, I took anatomy classes with 5-hour labs. The course was 5 hours because you had to take a nursing lab and work with a cadaver. So I was prepared well enough to go into nursing once I finished my anatomy and physiology. 2 of the hardest classes I ever took in my life, but it was the best thing I could have did for myself. Because when they see you have anatomy and physiology on your transcript, they know that you're subject to higher level learning. So teachers, I'm telling you to enroll in my medical terminology class. That's right. And I'm telling you to take some continuing education courses in the area of medical coding to open up other opportunities so you can moonlight and work as an adjunct in the evening. Because you never know when they're going to lay you off. So if they lay you off, you can go straight into the junior college as an adjunct facilitator. Try it. And most of all, what I would like for you to know is that I'm opening up something brand new to you. Most of you would have never thought about doing coding, but it is a profession that is of the highest, utmost respect, because there are professionals around the world that you will meet in this profession, and professionals that you will interact with, that you can work with and work on special projects and do research. Especially if you go into Tumor Registry, you actually are fully in cancer research. You're keeping the statistics on all cancer patients. You are collecting data and you are documenting data so we can find cures for these diseases. It's very vital that most of you understand we end up in different places by ways of detour. And that's what happened to me. I was a straight up science person that was coming to take a science job, which they fought over which class I was going to teach. And then when I got there, they marched me over to another school to teach social studies. And I kept raising my hand, but you got me, I'm in the curriculum where I'm learning science. Now you want me to leave and go to social studies? I couldn't talk them out of it. It was something they thought I was supposed to do in social studies. But I guess they saw my transcript. I also had quite a few hours in history. But I didn't come to teach history. I came to teach science, biology. Biology. Get it? Well, I want to say this to most of you. You need to have a way to make a living. Some people change jobs day and night. They swing in one profession, out the other. Once you get in coding, and if you're good at it, it becomes a profession. You can take care of your family, and you can hang out with professionals that are doing journals writing articles, and making suggestions about the professional field of the WHO industry. And the WHO industry I talked to you a little bit about earlier. Now we're going to get back into these notes. And I want you to get your copy of this document that I told you about. It's very vital that you should understand. Sometimes they print things out and put it right up under our nose to open up a brand new career for us. How many of you need a brand new career in the area of allied health and technician? Because that's what you'll become, a technician of allied health and of medical records. I took every course in medical records you could take, learned all about the healthcare industry, and know so well about the WHO industry and why they invented all these regulations for these doctors and for us, various different medical records people, to be able to access. You don't have to memorize it. You access it. You read it, you follow the guidelines when you're looking for a way or procedure to code specific codes, and it gives you the outline way and instruction. You make sure that this is filed somewhere where you can access it. You don't have to pen notes all over your computer and sticky notes. You can reference to this guideline. But hurry though, because September 30th, they'll be renewing it and updating it to a brand new procedure. Isn't that something grand? Now, I can speak to you from this perspective as a professional because I've worked alongside nurses and doctors, therapists, and I put my 5 years in the profession when I first started as working in the urgent care, where I got my first experience, and working as a medical assistant. I learned how to draw blood. I learned how to do x-rays, how to do stitches, remove stitches, assisting the doctor, and assisting the doctors with putting sutures in. So in the urgent center, they'll let a person do just about anything who is working the 3 to 11 shift, because they need somebody on the graveyard shift, and that's where you can get your best training at. So that's why I got my training at. I went on to be offered a job in respiratory therapy as a technician. And there I got 4 years of experience working in emergency, pediatric, and geriatric. And after working in those areas, I still couldn't find a teaching job. And I needed to work nights because I wanted to be home in the day with my child. So I traded it off and worked 3 to 11 for 5 years and was able to be home with my child, breastfeeding, spending time raising my child, and then going to work at night. And a lot of you women need to look at that. Stay at home with your children while they're young. Put some time in with them. And then work the night shift. You get paid more when you work the night shift. And you don't have a lot of supervisors around bugging the heck out of you, and you can get something done. At the same time, try to go back to school and take 1 or 2 classes during the day. Take my continuing education class. It's free for the first 4 weeks. See how you like medical terminology. See if it's suited for you. See if it's something you can apply. You might even find that you like processing claims. I think every woman should have a profession. Even if you're not working in it and you're home with the baby boo, you can always go back to work and upgrade your skills. And that's what I'm doing, upgrading my skills right now as an instructor in the allied field. I am currently retired right now. I'm coming out of retirement for my sisters because I want to see them do better. I want to see them at least break $50,000 in their lifetime. Yes, you're looking at somebody knew what it meant to make $50,000. And sometimes you got to walk away and take an early retirement. And the money is not what holds you there. You have to look at your whole career and your family. And your family dynamics is everything. Sometimes you have to put the job down to go home to structure your family. But once you get your family in order and get back to the things of life, and that is going back for continuing ed. At 60 years old, I found myself going back for language to endorse myself one more time in language, something I wanted, so I could learn as much as I could about language and helping young people to write and to read. So now I'm a reading specialist, and I'm teaching you everything I know about language and trying to incorporate that allied health into language. So why am I on television today? I earned the right to come and talk to you about this. There are a lot of other professionals out there, but they may not care as much as only care for you, because I'm on this screen quite a bit trying to give you the knowledge that I could pass on to you, so that when I exit out of this system, I will have a legacy for your legacy. Okay? And it's very important for us seasoned teachers to leave something back here for your legacy. Okay? And it's very important for us to stop teaching for a while and be able to set up our training and curriculum to leave with some other soul that is feverishly fighting their way through the allied health profession. Because believe you me, if you didn't have a good foundation for biology, anatomy, and chemistry in high school, it will be tough for you. Luckily, I had a foundation for anatomy and physiology because I had a good instructor in 6th grade that taught me the fundamentals of looking at how do you take science and break it down to an art, and how to develop a love for science. So what I'm saying to you today is that we can have a lot of fun in these classes working in medical term, because I'm going to show you how to retain 80% of what you learn in medical term, so that you can recall 80% of this information and you can use it and you can comprehend. Reading is one thing, but you must be able to comprehend. I can't take you to the water and make you drink. I can provide the information for you. You can tune into these channels. You can be astute and follow me. Become a follower. That's all I ask you to do. All these people that are my friends, stop being my friend. I want to thank you for being my friend, but I want you to follow me. Go and pick up your pen and paper. Press the button for following on me. Follow the leader. I'm taking you someplace. Trust me. I aim to create something in you, and that is a master coder. And that is someone who's interested in the allied health profession that can sit down, take that review for CPC, pass that review, and execute that comprehensive exam, and come out of there all certificated with the CPC, then going back for your next endorsement and outpatient coding, then inpatient coding, and then billing. To come out with all these endorsements and certificates is far greater than any degree. Trust me, continuing ed is the way to go in the allied health profession. I wouldn't tell you no lie. And I've been through 2 master programs. And if I'd known that I could have just did the continuing ed in the allied health profession, there's no way I would have went back while I was 62 years old, taking 18 credit hours, because that was hard as heck at my age. But nevertheless, nothing is too hard for God's people. Ain't nothing too hard for God. He is the one that gets you through those exams. But it's very vital you should get a professional. I'm very proud of my daughter-in-law, because she urged me and encouraged me as I see her come out with her credentials in this profession of medical records. She keeps me encouraged, and I love her because she wants to play a great role as a mother in her own family, putting her family first and her profession second. You must always remember, we put our family first and our profession second, because you cannot be anything to anybody else unless you're being that person at home and making your life out to be a good life for your family. And when you provide that, God will make every opportunity to get you in school. I can remember going to theology school and grad school at the same time. I didn't know whether to carry my Bible to class or to come in there with my medical terminology book. It's very vital that you should understand education is not what I'm telling you to spend a bunch of money on a graduate degree or money at the 2-year college. I'm saying get some endorsements. The allied health profession will allow you to obtain endorsements and certificates. So what I've been trying to say to you is that this document that I have proposed that you read, I'm not going to sit here and read it verbatim to you. I'm going to sit here and let you know that they're giving this document away free. Most people don't even know that it's available on the internet, but I'm telling you it's available on the internet so that you have the capability of comprehending, read it to its in-depthness, get an understanding, highlight it, underline it, but also file it in one of your 3-ring binders so you can reference to. Test yourself. Do some examples of coding. Take your book. Order you a book, even if you're not a coder yet. Order you a book and tabulate your book. And get in somebody's class that is a boot camp. And I am preparing to do a boot camp that will be a 4-day boot camp to teach you everything that I know to help you to proficiently set for that exam. I'm going to tell you we will be offering anatomy and physiology and terminology. I'm definitely going to teach those classes and lay them down as a foundation. Then we can do the review for CPT exam. But it's no sense of getting you in the classroom telling you you could go ahead and start coding and you don't have a foundation for a medical term. It would be Greek to you. And those people that say you don't have to have medical term are lying. You do need to have medical term, preferably medical anatomy and physiology. You need to know what's in that cadaver. What are the tendons? What are the bone structure, the 206 bones, and where are all of the muscles? Can you pinpoint the muscles when the doctor's talking about one of the muscles and in his patient that has osteoporosis, what is going on with his bones? And is his bones thinning? You have to know so much information. So why not go ahead and do a boot camp? Because the next thing we're going to do is a boot camp to talk about ICD-10-CM and what is the government requiring you to do when you code. How many codes numbers should you have? And should you give your codes a thorough coding in depth, or is this just general coding? We know that the ICD-9 was just general coding, but the ICD-10 is specific coding. You code to the 7th digit. Now, as an instructor, as a buddy, my job is to bring you along up to the level. And we're going to be pressing you to come on this airways to listen to us. And we will be on there Sunday getting ready to teach the class of medical terminology. I expect to see every one of you. This was just a challenge to talk to you about the great opportunities in medical coding. I said great opportunities because there's some sisters who are going on and they're doing the doggone thing. They're getting a bachelor's degree in registered information, health, and administration, so they can become an administrator and supervise. Some of you may want that, and then some of you may only want to become a technician. Then you can take the RHIT, the Registered Health Information Technician is what I took. So you become a technician. You actually process the codes and become a coder. And now they have the certificate programs for 1 year where you could become a coder after going through a 1-year certificate program. So I want to say to some of you that you cannot be without a profession. You must have a profession. You may not be working in it just yet, but you need a profession. Having a profession is going to unlock doors for you. We'll be able to spend more time on these airways. However, today I want to bid you farewell and say thank you for watching, and go out and become a follower. That's all I asked of you. I didn't ask for your money. There's a lot of people asking for your money. I'm just looking for you to become a follower, enter your information, your email, and support me when I'm doing something. If I help enough people to get what they want, I can get anything I want. I'm going to call on you to be a part of our tribe. Our tribe is trying to have streams of income. I'm going to call on you to sign up for